Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Future Doctor by Gyanberry. My name is Tejas Labhshetwar. I'm the founder of Gyanberry. For those who are tuning it for the first time, let me quickly give you a background of what Future Doctor podcast is. It is a podcast dedicated to high school students and their families to get first-hand information about admission process to medical universities around the world, to understand how this life of a medical student is and what are the future opportunities after graduating from a medical school. So, in this podcast, we interview international students from top medical schools around the world to give you first-hand information and insights. So, today I have an amazing international student with me, Diandra Bretfelean. I'll give a quick introduction about Diandra. She has an amazing academic background. She comes from Romania. She moved to the UK. She did her bachelor's in psychology. Then she did her master's in pharmaceutical sciences. And then after that, she got into medical school. And now she's in the fourth year of the medical school. And in a year, she'll be a doctor. So amazing to have you, Deandra. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to speak with you because your profile is very unique, full of academics and full of experiences. So I'm sure students can take away a lot after hearing this podcast. Right. So let shall we get right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Amazing. Okay. So Deandra, just tell me about your childhood, about your schooling, where do you come from? I think that will be very helpful for students to relate to you, as an international student.
Yeah, so I grew up in Romania, in a small village in Romania. And after that, I went to a science high school because in Romania, you had to go to a science high school or social science high school. So being at the science high school gave me the basis of chemistry, biology, physics, and mathematics, which are very important when you apply to medical school because applicants look at what subjects you studied in high school. So I was quite lucky to go towards that route. Um, However, if you don't have science background, it doesn't mean you'll never be a doctor. You just have to find a shortcut how to get there, and there are a few options. Yeah.
Right, amazing. So, interesting question. Were you asked to take sciences by your parents, or were you naturally inclined to study sciences?
I think for some reason, I was very inclined into sciences by myself. My parents never told me what to do. By contrary, they always let me choose whatever I wanted to do. So I always had the freedom to choose and study whatever I wanted. And so I think it was just a genuine interest. It was also like fueled by my teachers at school because science is a very big thing in Romania and they try to
Right,
very brilliant scientist. So I think that also influenced me. Yeah.
amazing. What was your favorite subject in the school?
Well, this sounds really cliche, but obviously biology. I didn't really like chemistry or physics, but biology was my favorite. And I think this is the case for every medical student.
Right. So, what would you tell students who don't like, say, physics, for example, right? Because most of the students who apply to medical schools, they obviously like either biology or chemistry or both of them. But I have met many students who sort of run away from physics or mathematics. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that they're not very important in medical school. By contrary, like when I came to medical school, I was like, oh, I don't know much physics, I don't know mathematics, I'm not going to do well. But medicine is not based on that. We have calculators now. Even in our exams, we're allowed with a calculator, so you don't have to know a lot of mathematics. Obviously, you have to know the basis,
Right.
but not to the advanced level you learn in high school. So I don't think it's a problem if you don't like the subjects.
Amazing. Okay. So those who are, not so good with physics and math, they don't need to be afraid that much. Yeah, they can manage,
Not
they
at
can
all.
figure out.
100%,
Amazing.
yes.
So you come from a small village in Romania. How did you end up in the UK? Tell me about that.
Well, it's an interesting story because at the time, most of my friends were applying to medical school in Romania. But for some
Right.
reason, I wanted to have a very different experience. I wanted to go on an adventure. So I told my Mom, I'm going to go to London because I had a friend in London. So
Okay.
um, I'm going to go and study in London for 3 years. That's what I said. And my mom said, yeah, do whatever you want. Next thing I know, I was on the couch by myself without much knowledge of the country. So I just came to London and I studied psychology there for 3 years and I never left since. So there must be something about the UK, I think.
Amazing. So you got to know about the UK from your friends.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Is this like a trend in Romania? Like a lot of Romanian students go to UK for study. Is that the most popular destination?
It is one of the most popular destinations, even though Romania has a very good university system in that everything is free. Here is not, it's a bit more costly to study in
Mhm.
the UK. However, there are a lot of international students here from all over the world, not just from Romania, because it's a very multicultural place and very welcoming of people from all over the world. So I see a lot of international students here for sure.
Amazing. So you said you have free options in Romania, right? So what made you choose UK over Romania? Like why are you paying fees, to the universities in the UK, whereas you could have studied for free in Romania and then move to the UK maybe for your post-graduation.
Well, one of the reasons that it was a challenge, obviously, to go into the unknown, it was very challenging. But on the other hand, I did a bit of research before, and UK is one of the best countries for academic studies, not just in medicine, in general. It's a very good country in terms of research as well. There's so many opportunities after you graduate here. So I think that's what attracts people to the UK. It's the quality of teaching. It's actually excellent here. I don't have any complaints, and I've been to 3 universities already, and they're all very, very good.
Amazing. And while applying to the UK, did you consider other countries as well beyond Romania to study medicine?
For some reason, no. I just applied to the UK, maybe also because I was very good at English. So whichever country you go to be a bit more comfortable, I think, especially in studying in a different language, you have to be a bit more comfortable with the language. And I think there were fewer options in Europe and overall that were teaching in English. So this is the reason why I went to the UK over other countries.
Right. So, as you said, you studied first psychology, right? So, was it the plan that you will study psychology and then you will do medicine or something like that? Were you like hell bent on medicine, or you flexible that I'll study psychology first and then sort of figure it out?
I think I wanted to try different things before I actually found something that I really liked. Psychology was very interesting and everything I studied was very interesting, but never saw myself doing it for the whole of my life. So I think back in my mind, I've always wanted to study medicine. It's just I didn't realize it until later than other people that medicine is actually what I really want to do.
Right. How was psychology like 3 years? Did you enjoy, or was it like overwhelming? Did you think what it was like when you actually did it? Did it turn out true what your assumptions were?
I think psychology was very interesting in terms of knowing myself and knowing other people. However, in terms of the course, it was a piece of cake comparing to medicine. It was actually quite easy. When I look back, I don't think anything that I've studied before compares to the volume of information you have to memorize in medicine. So it was interesting, but looking in retrospect, I feel like I could have learned all of those things from like reading books and everything. So it's not that I regret it, but obviously medicine is very different from.
I'm sure, but I don't think so. If you speak to psychology students who are currently pursuing, they might not agree to this because I have spoken to a lot of students. They're like, psychology, especially research psychology, is quite tough. But yes, when you compare to medicine, I can imagine like it's much easier, right? So you're lucky to have studied both the subjects. But does it help like studying
Yes.
psychology? Does it help in medicine?
100%, especially psychology and pharmaceutical sciences, like in those topics, because in medical school we are taught psychology and mental health is a very big part of our teaching in our courses, and we do placements in mental health hospitals. So for me, it was very easy to interact with that kind of population and to even learn the materials. So I think it really, really helped me. And also pharmaceutical sciences, it's a very big topic in medicine as well. So both of my degrees helped me. I think they also helped me get into medical school, but they also helped me survive medical school, to put it simply. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the admission process, Diandra. Say I'm an international student. What all the universities, require from me to apply? Firstly, what are the basic requirements from a UK medical school?
So in general, the basic requirements are a bit of science at what they call A levels, which is the equivalent of the exam you take in after your at the end of your high school.
Right.
So requirements in terms of grades, it depends on the university, but they usually require close to the maximum score. So it is quite competitive from that point of view. And after they filter students through that, there's either a UCAT or an MCAT. It depends again on the university. So this is a medical admission exam. And for example, the UCAT, it doesn't really have medical knowledge. It's more of an aptitude test, which is quite different from the exam students are used in high school. And after this exam, if you score well enough, they will invite you for an interview. And usually this is an MMI or a panel interview, again, depending on the university. And for extra points, to make sure you stand out from the crowd, you will need a little bit of experience in a hospital, either through volunteering or shadowing, because this looks very good in application and it will give you a lot of advantages over other students. So overall, this is the admission process. It's quite complex, but yeah.
Right. So just to summarize, the A-level equivalent high school, diploma. Right.
Mhm.
Second is the UCAT examination, and third is the MMI interviews. Regarding the high school, do I need to have any specific grades? In your case, I'm presuming you already have your master's degree, not even a high school degree when you apply. But say when I'm applying as a high school student, what are typically the grades? I'm sure you have classmates who have done high school and then joined the medical school. What are their grades like? Is like straight A's, A stars, or even a B is okay?
Even for my experience, they actually looked at my high school grades, and it usually
Wow.
has to be at least an A, and A star is even better. Some universities accept a B. It really depends on your overall application, but usually an A or an A star would be the basic requirement, and this has to be in a science subject. So biology, chemistry, or physics are the most well looked after subjects when you apply to medical school.
All right. So they focus on the grades and science subjects.
Exactly.
Great. So this is one. Second is the UCAT. So in the UCAT examination, can you tell a bit about this examination? You said it's not like a high school exam. So what are the sections or subjects are part of the UCAT?
Yeah, so there are different aptitudes that they test you on. So, for example, verbal reasoning, and these are all in English. So, how you extract information from a text and how you put it in your own words. There's also a bit of mathematical skills. Um, Also, they give you some shapes, so to organize them in a very logical manner. So this tests your logic as well. So as I said, it's not your knowledge. However, you have to prepare for it as well because it's quite a difficult exam. So the sooner you start, I think the better. Because as I said, it's not something you will be used to from your high school. No one teaches you how to do this, so you have to start very early for this because it's very
Right.
important.
So you need a altogether separate practice for the UCAT. Like your high school subjects cannot prepare you exactly for this examination, right?
No, you need separate materials, separate, probably even a bit of tutoring will help. It's not something you want to go unprepared for because you will not pass it.
Right. And tell us a bit more about the MMI,
Yes.
interviews, how different they are from the, regular interviews. What exactly happens in a MMA?
Yeah, so in an MMI, you will run through different stations, and in each station there's a different interviewer, and they ask you different questions. Some questions might not even be related to medicine, because what they're looking for here is not your knowledge. They're looking for like what I like to call soft skills, so your communication skills, your leadership skills, teamwork, resilience, how you cope under pressure. All of these are tested within an MMI. Some of them might even bring extra people, such as actors, to play a scenario with them, and they test your empathy as well. So all the qualities that medical schools think are important for a future doctor, they are tested in the MMI.
Can you give us an example of a role play? What, like maybe your own experience, if you can share what happened in a role play?
Yeah, so in the role play, they will bring an actor, and for example, they might say that you are this person who waits in a doctor's practice, and a patient comes in, and you just also have a conversation with them. They don't tell you anything in advance. So you enter, before even you say hello, the actor starts crying. So what do you
Right,
do then? You will have to show your compassion and your empathy, and you will have to be prepared to discuss very sensitive topics, because these people won't cry for no reason. Usually they are very emotionally sensitive topics that probably very few students are used to talk about just from their high school. So as I said, a bit of preparation even here really helps. Um, but yeah, I think they're very challenging. They were very scary for me at the time. But in the actual station, I treated the person as a friend, and I think that really helped me, because if you treat the
right.
person in front of you as your friend, you can't go wrong. So
Amazing. So what will be your top three tips to a high school student who is preparing for the MMI interview? Tell me like top three things that, that can help them.
I think number one thing and the most important thing is to get some experience in a hospital or in a clinical environment. Not because they're gonna ask questions directly, sometimes they do, but the experience you gain there will really, really help you in the MMI.
Yes.
The second tip, obviously, is to prepare. I started preparing, I think, 4 months in advance, and I will just play out scenarios with my friends. I will ask them to be this person or that person. Also, for the medical ethics section, it requires a bit of reading in advance. So obviously prepare, and a top tip during the interview is to stay calm, because even if you do badly in one station, they score like overall, like your performance overall rather than your performance in each station.
Right.
So that's a very good way to look at it. You have to keep the perspective when you're there, because it's very stressful when you are asked questions by these doctors or like this specialist, and you have to give a very good answer under the pressure of time. So I think practice really helps with that as well.
Amazing. Thanks for the suggestion. I think those are very true and very relevant. Talking about the number of medical schools that you can apply to in the UK, there are 40 plus medical schools. So can you apply to all of them, or there is like limited choices that you have to make?
I think there's a limit of 4 medical schools. Um, And when I applied this in the UK, if you have a previous degree, you can apply for something called a graduate course, which is only 4 years, but you need a previous degree for that. But the overall number is 4 universities. So you can't apply to all. You have to choose them wisely and make a strategy based on your UCAT score and your experience, and have a look at what they require, because
Mhm.
I think strategy is the most important thing when you apply to medical school. To know which one to apply for is very important.
Right. So what I understand is you can apply to four medical schools. If you have a previous bachelor's degree, then you can go for the graduate entry. And if you have a high school, diploma, then you can apply for the 5 year undergraduate entry route, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Amazing. Now let's talk about your medical school life. Tell me, how were the 4 years? Did you expect, what you're going through? Is it turning out what you expected, or was it like totally different?
Yeah, so the first 2 years are non-clinical years in which you learn basic sciences. There's a little bit of patient interaction, but not so much because these 2 years will prepare you for the clinical years. And I feel these 2 years were the most enjoyable because you have a little bit of more free time. However, once you enter the clinical years, that's where things get very serious. It's not just how much you study, it's about who you are as a person. So there's a lot of self-development you have to go through to be able to sit in front of a patient and have a conversation with them. So I
Mhm.
feel like medical school has developed me also on a personal level rather than just academically. And so far, the fourth year is the most difficult one because it's the final exams. And this is where you have to keep very, very focused. However, once fourth year is finished, fifth year is actually the easiest one. People think the last year must be the hardest one, but actually the easiest one. There's very few exams. You're just in hospital learning actually how to be a doctor, and it finishes quite early. Then you get to go on an elective anywhere in the world to practice medicine for around 2 months. So it's a bit of traveling involved. So it's very exciting to be in
Nice.
50 years if you get it that far.
Nice. That's so amazing and exciting too. And at the same time overwhelming too. In terms of subjects, which one was your favorite subject and which one was your toughest subject in the theoretical years?
Okay, so my favorite subject, I think, has always been anything related to surgery because I
Mhm.
got to see a few surgeries from my first year and I just fell in love with that. So anything
Okay.
related to surgery, I really, really enjoyed. The toughest one is renal medicine. So the medicine of the kidney. I think all medical students hate that because it's just so complicated. And even up to this day, we still struggle to understand it. So I think that was my least favorite. And it's not just me, it's everyone in medical school.
Right. So it is true that medical students still don't know everything. We think like, they know everything if they're in the fourth year or fifth year.
No, most of the time you go to placement and you feel like I don't know nothing, but obviously you know a little bit. And even as doctors, you will never know everything. It's just so much information and it's very difficult to keep up. But as long as you know the basics, you'll be fine.
Right. Tell me, did you have any low point in the medical studies, like where you felt, oh my God, like this is not for me? Did you have those moments where you start to question yourself?
In terms of the choice that I made, I think never, I never doubted it. I know this is for me and I really enjoyed it most of the times. Obviously, there are times in which is something called imposter syndrome, and it's something every medical student has, is that I'm not smart enough to be here to do this. And
Mm.
I think that happened to me a few times because you doubt yourself. It's so overwhelming to study constantly. Like you have to study every single day, and it can become a bit overwhelming. And it can also take a toll on your mental health some days. So it's not just rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it's quite tough. But I think having very good friends really helps in medical school. So I advise everyone who applies from the first day, just go and make friends. It's the most valuable tool you will have throughout your medical studies.
Yeah, that actually was my next question. Uh, People say that medical students don't have social life, their social life sucks. Is this a true statement or a false statement?
I think it's a false statement uh, because you will be in the same class with 180 other people that you will see
Right.
for 5 years. You will undoubtedly make friends and have a social life. And there's a lot of things going at the university as well. Like we have a medical society in which we organize events every month, probably just to go see a movie or do some extracurricular stuff. However, for me, my social time or like my main hobby that I do is traveling. And this is also a stereotype that as a medical student, you don't have time for yourself or for your hobbies. But I managed to see at least 20 countries just since I'm in medical school. So if
Wow.
you if you want to, it's very possible, but it takes very good organizational skills and learning how to study. Even when I travel, I still study some of the day. So it's not like it's a complete break, but it really
Mhm.
helps me. So I think finding something that you really like and you have to stick to it because you need a break from medicine to be good at medicine.
Right. So during those intense days, like when you have exam coming up, right? Like how many hours do you study along with your, of course, keeping the college hours separate? How many hours you study?
So a typical day, especially in clinical years, you will go to placement, which is in a hospital from 8:30, you come back, let's say 4 to 5. So it's like a full-time
Mhm.
job that you don't
Right.
get paid for. And you have to come back and study for your exams. So the day finishes at 10 p.m. and is from 8:30 till 10, continuous brain power. But it's also very important to take breaks because it's not very efficient to study all the time. So what I do, I go to the gym or I go for a swim, and that really helps me like repower and relax a little bit. And also,
Mhm.
you can't study every day. You need at least one complete full day off in which you don't do anything, because I
Right.
think that's the secret to doing well in exams.
Diandra, if you don't mind, can we talk about your, living cost and the cost of studies? How much do you pay to the university and how much do you spend on your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so um, when you apply to medical school, in terms of tuition fees, you are classed either as a home student or an international student. And
Right.
luckily, I was classed as a home student, which means I pay around 9,250 pounds per year. And
Mhm.
as a home student, you can also apply for some student finance, so that covers a bit of your costs. So I was very lucky in that respect. However, as an international student, it can vary from like 20,000 to 50,000 pounds a year. Um, so it is a bit more costly. However, there are scholarships available for all students that you can apply for to help you a little bit. And also, what I did to help me financially is I got a part-time job, which is totally possible in the first 2 to 3 years of medical school, as long as you have very good organizational skills.
Right.
Um, and in terms of cost of living, the average rent in the UK is around £500 a month. However, that excludes London, which is way more expensive, around
Absolutely.
7 to 800. And apart from this, I would say obviously you have to eat. So like grocery shopping is it's around like 1 to 200 a month. It depends on how much you eat, but that's the average cost. And travel wise, in medical schools also you have to travel. So I advise getting a car is very helpful. However, it's not the end of the world if you don't have one, but it will be
Mhm.
very helpful because sometimes you have to travel to remote areas in villages to like your placement. Um, and it obviously social life and everything. So I would say in a month you need at least to live comfortably at least 900 to 1,000 pounds.
Mhm.
That's like living quite good. But as I said, it's a very friendly place, and there's a lot of part-time jobs, even at university, at the library. There's a lot of opportunities if you struggling financially to actually get help. So I don't think it should discourage anyone to go to medical school because of finances, because there are like a lot of routes that you can get help with.
Right. So you qualified for the home fees because you applied before the Brexit. Is that the case?
Yes, that's true. And also because I was living in the UK before. So I think if you live
Hmm.
in the UK for like 3 years, I'm not quite sure if that's the case still,
Hmm.
but you will be classed as a home student. Or if you have British citizenship, obviously you're going to be classified as a home student. But otherwise, you'll be international student.
Absolutely, yeah. After the Brexit, a lot of rules have changed. So I would advise the listeners to, check the current rules, whether you qualify for home fees or, international fees. I mean, of course, non-EU students by default qualify for international, non-home fees. Amazing. What's your plan, Deandra? Like you're going to graduate in a year's time. What are you going to do after that? And can you tell us a bit more about what's the process like for a student to, do their post-graduation or even work, in the UK? What are the next steps like after graduating?
So the next step would be for 2 years, you will be a foundation year doctor, which is a
Mm-hmm.
mandatory part of the training. If you want to practice in the UK and to be fully registered, you will have to do those at least 1 year. And
Mm-hmm.
after these 2 years, you would have to specialize. So these 2 years, you just rotate between different specialties in the hospital with nothing specific that you specialize in. Only after you have to specialize, and it depends if you want to do surgical training or medical training. They have different lengths, but the average is again 5 years. So to be at the level of consultant after medical school, it will take you at least 7 more years. In terms of,
Wow.
yeah, it's a long route. And in terms of my plans, I want to do something out of the norm for 1 to 2 years. I want to practice what is called wilderness medicine, to go on expeditions and just be a doctor and travel at the same time. That's what I want to do for a while. And then I will most likely go into surgery, but I think I will need a break after medical school.
Sure. Uh, wow. So 2 years of foundation year and then 5 years for surgery. So another 7 years you have after becoming a doctor. No wonder we all of us, have so much high regard for doctors, right? Because they invest so much of their life to a profession which serves the society. So I think hats off to you and to all the doctors. Uh, you know what? I have so many questions to ask you, but considering the limited time, I think we'll conclude the podcast here. It was so amazing to talk to you. Thank you for all the information and sharing your experience so openly. And I'm sure this will be super helpful for all the students who are looking to apply to medical schools. Any final thoughts from you? Any advice you would like to give to someone who is in high school and thinking to apply to med schools?
Yeah, so it was also very nice to talk to you, and I hope it was helpful for most of the students.
Pleasure, pleasure.
My
Yes,
advice
this
is
is
just be confident, go speak to people who are already in medicine, and prepare for the interview and the UKCAT, because it's very important that you go prepared. And if you don't get it the
amazing.
first time, it's not the end of the world. It's never too late to become a doctor. That's another thing I forgot to say.
Absolutely. I see resilience, commitment, dedication. These are like three qualities I see from you are very important for any high school student who want to pursue medicine. Thanks, Diandra. Wish you an amazing evening and all the best. I hope to see you as a doctor very soon.
So hopefully, thank you.